Good day, students. Welcome to mathgotserved.com. And this clip, we're going to be going over how to add and subtract fractions with like denominators. To get us started, we're going to take a look at the rules for adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, so rules for adding and subtracting fractions. Alright, so let's start with the first rule. Um, Number one, you want to express the fraction that you're adding in proper or improper forms. Okay, so express the fractions in proper or improper forms. What does that mean? It basically means that if you have, for instance, you have a mixed number or a whole number, you convert them into improper fractions. Okay, so mixed and whole numbers gets converted to improper fractions. Okay, all right. Step number two. Um, Sometimes you might have a situation where you have adjacent signs, two operations next to each other. In that case, you have to resolve the signs. All right. So, step two, you multiply adjacent signs when applicable. Okay, when applicable. Alright, so now you're ready to add. So now you just proceed to add or subtract the numerator. Add or subtract the numerator. The reason why you can do this is because the denominators are already alike. Okay, so add or subtract the numerator and keep the denominator. So that's how you add it. And then lastly, in certain cases, you might have to reduce your results to its simplest form. All right. So let's take a look at the formula for adding and subtracting fractions. Fractions with identical denominators. So the formulas are as follows. So if you want to add, let's say you have a fraction a over b plus another fraction c over b. You see I have identical denominators. The rule is you add the numerator a plus c divided by and keep the denominator. Alright? How about if you wanted to subtract? If you want to subtract, let's say a over b minus c over b, what you do is you subtract the numerator and keep the denominator. So that's basically how you add and subtract integers. How you add and subtract fractions with like denominators. Now let's take a look at some examples. The instructions for the examples are for us to evaluate the given fractions, okay? Question 1, let's say we have 2 over 3 plus 5 over 3. Now how do we do this? Now if you take a look at the two fractions we have, 2 over 3 plus 5 over 3, the first fraction is a proper fraction because the numerator is smaller than the denominator, and the second fraction is an improper fraction. So these forms are good for us to add and subtract. Okay? So all you simply do is you add the numerator 2 plus 5 divided by the denominator, and then you keep the denominator, which is 3. Okay? 2 plus 5 is 8. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 divided by 3. You can also express this as mixed numbers. Okay? You just simply divide 7 by 3. 3 goes into 7 twice, remainder 1, so you can write it as 2 and 1/3. Alright, so these are the answers in two different forms for question number 1. Now let's try another example. Let's try question 2. What if we have to evaluate 5 over 2, negative 5 over 2 plus 3 over 2? Alright, the solution is as follows. Let's take a look at the forms that we have. Negative 5 over 2 plus 3 over 2. We have two improper fractions, which is fine. We only have problems when we have mixed numbers and integers, whole numbers. Okay. Now, all we just simply do is subtract the numerator, negative 5 plus 3, divided by the denominator, which is 2. You keep the denominator. Alright. Negative 5 plus 3, since the signs are different, you subtract and keep the sign of the bigger, which is 5. The bigger is 5 and the sign of 5 is negative, so we have negative 2 over 2. You can divide this by 2 top and bottom, and you end up with negative 1 as your final answer. Alright, let's try another example. Question number 3. Let's say you want to find 2.5 minus 9 over 2. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. So if you take a look at this scenario we have here, 2.5 minus 9 over 2. Now, what you notice is that we have a mixed number and an improper fraction. Okay, so this fraction 2.5 is a mixed number, and this 9 over 2 is an improper fraction. Okay, well, if you have a situation like this, you cannot add or subtract. Remember, the fractions you're adding should be in mixed numbers, or they should be proper or improper fractions in order for you to add or subtract. Okay, but we have a mixed number and an improper fraction, so this mixed number has to be converted into an improper fraction. Okay, so to do that, we just simply multiply 2 by 2, and then we add that to the 1 and divide by 2. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5, so 5 over 2 minus 9 over 2. Now we have two improper fractions. We may now subtract. Okay, so how do you subtract? You subtract the numerator and keep the denominator. Positive 5 minus 9 gives us negative 4 over 2. Now we can reduce this by thinking about the greatest common factor of negative 4 and 2. What goes into 4 and 2? 2 is the greatest common factor, so we divide top and bottom by 2. And then that gives us, bring down the negative. 4 divided by 2 is 2 over 1. And then any number divided by 1 is that number, so negative 2 is the final answer for question number 3. Alright, now let's take a look at the last one, question 4. Let's say you want to find the difference between 5 and 2/3 and negative 4 and 1/3. Okay? Alright, so what's this going to be? So let's take a look at what we have right here. We have two mixed numbers and we have two adjacent signs next to each other. So there are two problems that we have to fix here. So what we're going to have to do is convert both of them to improper fraction, and then we have to resolve this product of signs that we have here. Okay? All right. So if you want to convert 5 and 2/3 to improper fraction, you multiply 3 by 5 and you add 2. Okay? 3 times 5 is 15. You add 2 to 15, you have 17 over 3 minus and minus. So if you have two minuses next to each other, minus times minus, you multiply them. When you multiply identical signs, it becomes a plus. Same procedure applies to 4 and 1/3. You multiply the 3 and the 4, and then you add it to 1. So you have plus 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. So 13 over 3. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and add these two numbers. They have the same denominator, so we just simply add the numerator, 17 plus 13, divided by the denominator, which is 3. 17 plus 13 is 30, divided by 3. 30 divided by 3, we know 3 goes into 30 10 times. 3 goes into 3 once. So if you divide the numerator and denominator by 3, which is the greatest common factor, you end up with 10 over 1, which is equal to 10. And that's your final answer. Now, how well did you master the process that we just went over on how to add and subtract fractions with like denominators? To ensure mastery, we'd like you to try out the following problems. So the instructions are to evaluate. Number 1, let's say you have 2 over 7 plus 5 over 7. And then number 2, you have 1 over 4 minus negative 5/4. Number 3, let's say you have 5 and a third minus 2 and a third. Number 4, let's say you have 3 and a fifth plus negative 5 and 1/5. Alright, so what I'd like you to do is go ahead and pause this video. Try out these 4 problems. When you're done, click on play to check your answer, which we will be revealing momentarily. Alright, let's hope that you had the chance to try out the problems. The answers to the problems are as follows. For question 1, the answer is going to be 1, 7 over 7, which reduces to 1. Question number 2, the answer is 3 over 2. Question 3, the answer is 14 over 3. And then question 4 reduces to negative 2. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this presentation. If this tutorial helped you in your studies of addition and subtraction of fractions, do give us a thumbs up. Your positive feedback is very valuable to us. If you have any questions or comments, just place it in the comments section below and we'll be more than glad to respond. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for updates to other tutorials such as this. More clips and support resources for your mastery of Algebra 1 can be found on mathgotserved.com. Thanks again for watching and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.